Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am really glad you're here. This is my third in a series on compassionate communication, how to improve all the relationships in your life. The first day was compassionate communication, how to add passion and love yourself was the first one. And that's what we did on day one. On day two, we did compassionate relationships, how to add passion, connection, and fun to the relationship you're in. And today is day three, and I seem to be more nervous today than I was the first 2 days. I think because if you're watching today, you probably have some nervous energy too. You may be another heart-centered professional that wants to learn a little bit more about this process, and I'm glad you're here. And today, I'm really speaking directly to those of you whose hearts might be conflicted, who aren't sure what you want to do, who have heard about compassionate mediation and aren't sure how it works for you. So what we're going to do today is talk about what compassionate mediation is and how it can help you. Because if you're like many of my clients, you're feeling stuck or confused or anxious or guilty or hopeful that you can change your relationship and add more passion, or scared that it may lead to a separation or divorce. So I'm Linda Kroll. I'm a therapist, mediator, attorney, Chopra certified master teacher of meditation, yoga, perfect health. And as of last year, I'm the author of Compassionate Mediation, how to add passion to your marriage or compassion to your divorce. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And my intention for today is that you leave however long you can stay with more hope. And if you have to leave before the end today, we're going to go about 30 minutes. I invite you to go to my website at lindakroll.com and find the information that you need to get a free chapter of the book, to order the book, or just to learn more of the free gifts and resources that I have there. So let's all take a breath. I like to do that when I start because what it does, if I expand my belly and breathe all the way down and then release, I'm going to invite you to do the same. And the reason I'm inviting you to breathe all the way into your belly, take an inhale and your belly expands, hold and release, is because when we're nervous or tense, if we take a deep breath, it sounds like this. It goes, but we really don't get any oxygen in. So what we're going to do is come into this present moment for as long as you can stay and deal with where you are right now and where you can be, even if you don't see it yet. So if you're on your own island of pain, feeling alone and lost and confused and scared, I want to help you find the bridge to wherever you're supposed to go next. And it doesn't mean you have to take any steps. It just means you get the information you need so that when you're ready to take a step, you know that you have the information that will give you the best guidance. So that's my hope for today, that you come out feeling more hopeful and see a possibility that you don't see right now. So I want to catch up on what we did the first 2 days because it's relevant. Compassionate mediation is a process that I developed after studying for 25 years. I studied internal family systems with Dick Schwartz, and I studied at the Chopra Center. I studied with a lot of different mentors. But what compassionate mediation is, it's a process that I hope will be used around the world whenever there's conflict. And basically what it invites people to do is come from their highest self, recognize that we're all one, and work out the details of the negotiations without getting into the human condition of defensiveness and reactivity and blame and judgment. So that's the overarching view. And it started with how we started this week, which is compassionate communication. So the first step in compassionate communication is to come from your best self. And most of us aren't in our best self most of the time. And I'm defining self, you can go back and listen to the first video, but I'm defining self as that calm, compassionate place inside your heart where you're not triggered by your partner's reactions. And in this video, we'll be talking about partners, marriage, whatever relationship you're in. This can help. And yesterday, the past couple of days, I showed you my self and parts chart. I'm going to do it again just because it's helpful to recognize that when we're in self, we're calm, we're clear, we're compassionate. And we're usually not in self. We're in parts. And the parts that we're in, we either exile some parts and push them aside and don't tell our partner that we're really sad and scared. And instead we try to manage by being nice or pleasing or being stoic or being hardworking or pretending we're in self, pretending everything's okay. But we're really feeling a lot of these hurt, sad, scared, maybe even angry feelings that we're not sharing. So instead, we do things to numb ourselves. We stay real busy, we exercise too much, we drink, we take drugs, we go have an affair, we get depressed, we get enraged. We do a lot of different things, but these are all human reactions to a very painful, scary condition. And when we're in self, then we are less reactive and can be more responsive. So the first day we talked about 4 ways to get to self. The first way is to just take a breath, because all that anxiousness, all those voices, do I want to stay? Do I want to go? What do I want to do? How do I want to be? Can I put my wall down? Is it safe? How am I going to look at him through or her through the filter? If we take a breath, we come to the present moment, and we're not regurgitating the past and what they did to us then, and we're not projecting that into the future as if it's going to be that way forever, but we're present. And in that present moment, there's a lot more possibility. The second way to get to self is to recognize that we have these parts and we speak for them, but not from them. So it's okay to say from your higher self, there's a part of me that's angry because of something. There's a part of me that's scared when you do that. I'm feeling sad because. And we're talking from self, it's a whole different dialogue. So when you are compassionately communicating, you are relating from self, you're letting go of your limiting beliefs and judgments about the other person. You are unburdening the pain from the past, not carrying it with you and projecting it into the future. And you're relating from your heart. Because when you're in your higher self, it's safe to open your heart. It may mean you'll be setting more boundaries. It may mean that you choose to leave, but you can do it from your higher self. So that's what we talked about the first day. And the second day, we talked about compassionate relationships, which is actually the second step of compassionate mediation. Because no matter what you're going to do with your partner, you have to get to a place of compassion. You have to get to a place where you can really relate to each other with respect, with kindness, with empathy. And we talked about the miracle of empathy yesterday, where you really listen to what's underneath the anger that your partner might be showing you. You really understand the hurt and the fear and the sadness, and you really open your heart to empathize, even if you've done it many times before, because as you give empathy, it enriches you no matter what your other person's going to do. And before I forget, compassionate mediation is helpful even if it's just you. So I have taught this process and shared this process with an individual who's come to my office confused. I've shared it with couples that one wants to stay and the other one wants to go. And that happens a lot of times. And then I've used it in mediation for divorce as well. The first step again, come home to yourself. Take care of yourself. The second step, create a compassionate relationship. Practice the miracle of empathy, where you start talking about what you want with I messages instead of talking about your judgments with you messages. And being able to talk with empathy means you have to have the 5 steps to receive what you want and need. And those 5 steps are, you have to know what you want and need. You have to know you deserve it. You have to be willing to ask for it and ready to receive it and stay grateful. So know what you want, know you deserve it, learn how to ask, be willing to receive, and stay grateful. And that's a process, because many times we're in a relationship and we've spent our whole relationship taking care of other people. So we've lost sight of what we want and need. So go back to that first step and find out what makes you you, what makes you happy, and do that. Fill up with self-love. and then you'll be more loving. So you'll take those 5 steps and you'll begin to think about what it is you want and sharing that with your partner instead of what you don't want. So that's the third step is then to explore your options. And what we do both in this book and in the program that I'm going to be creating at some time very near future is we give you the options, and I'm going to talk about those right now. So I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to see if anybody's here. Hopefully you're all hearing me. And if there's any comments, please put them in. And if you're watching later, because I know it's really hard to get here at the same time, but I'm finding that, fortunately, these are going out and being seen by many people, and I'm always available to answer your questions. So you can either leave a comment at the end of the video, or you can find me at lindakroll.com and contact me with a question, and I'll answer it tomorrow and the next day and get back to you with the answer. So please know that I'm here to help in whatever way I can. Okay, so taking a breath, let's recapitulate. Compassionate mediation will either help you add passion to your marriage or compassion to your divorce. And the reason I'm saying it can add passion to your marriage is because guess what would happen if you stop being reactive in your relationship right now? Just think about it a minute. Take a breath with me and think about how much focus you're often putting on what your partner needs to be doing to change, instead of where you can look at yourself. So when you look at yourself, you recognize that's where your true power lies, to make different choices and respond in a way that actually brings more love and compassion into your present situation. Now, when you're at a crossroads where you've had bad habits go on and you're not sure if you want to stay or go, there's a part of you that kind of whispers in your ear, well, don't be too nice or don't be too kind, because then your partner will think everything's okay. Or then you'll put the walls down around your heart and maybe they'll hurt you again. But the reality is you are, as I've been saying all week, you are a channel of love and a beacon of light. That is who you are. That's your birthright. And anything that stops you from being that is either a pain from your past or a limiting belief that you can let go of and really shine that light on all of your parts and on all of your partner's parts. And when you do that, guess what happens? They don't see you as the either angry or walled or distant or judgmental partner that they've had. They begin to see the light that they saw in you when you first got together. And then what happens with them is they put their walls down and they take the filter off that they've been judging you from. And you can create a whole new marriage relationship starting now. So I invite you to consider that possibility, even if you have one foot out the door. So the other piece of compassionate mediation is that it leads to hope and healing. And it leads to hope and healing because it's going to let you take one step at a time, just one step. And I got to congratulate you because this is a step. What you're doing right now, watching me, being open to possibility, you're taking a step. And if your ultimate goal is to be in a loving, kind, passionate, intimate, fun relationship, then that's your GPS. That's where you set your GPS. Now, the steps to get there are not going to be clear yet. But what we do is, if we could be as kind to ourselves as our old GPS in our car used to be. Remember how you set the GPS for where you want to go, and then you start going, and if you make a wrong move, the GPS just says rerouting, rerouting. It doesn't say, you stupid idiot, you've made a bad choice, or anything that we tell ourselves, right? So if we know that we're going to take small incremental steps in the direction of our dreams, of the relationship we desire and deserve, then we'll know when we're listening to our higher self because they'll flow. the steps will flow. When we're listening to our ego or our fear or our judgment or our defensiveness, we're going to feel very constricted, and the path will be much more difficult. So move in the direction of your highest good and see the universe support you. It really is amazing. Okay, so the third step, I wanted to remember to tell you this and to tell me this all the time. Take a breath. Because what a breath does is take us into our body, into our hearts, out of our minds, out of the spinning, indecision, worry, judgment, blame, self-doubt, self-criticism. Take a breath and just come into your heart. And I know that it might be hard to post today because this is an ambivalent subject. You know, I don't know if you want people to know you're looking. But again, this is a process that can be used, and I'm hoping it will be used, amongst counselors, coaches, mediators, attorneys, spiritual counselors, everywhere. Because it's a process to help you learn what you need to know about being in self, having a compassionate relationship, and exploring your options. And we're going to talk about that. Okay. You have many options. They are not black and white. It is not status quo or Armageddon. It's not stay where you are or implode your family. There is a rainbow of options that you don't understand yet, but you will. So as you start to learn how to communicate from your higher self, learn how to use the miracle of empathy, you can begin to talk about all the issues that you would have to talk about in a divorce. So in a divorce or a separation, you're going to have to talk about money. You're going to have to talk about parenting. You're going to have to talk about what you can do with the house, etc. You're going to have to see if you need to get a job or not. But when you're looking at what the possibility is, you can talk about this without needing to end it. Because many times in a relationship, you're locked in roles that you had many years ago that your parents had. So sometimes the husband is the breadwinner and the wife stays at home and raises the children. And he spends 15 or 20 years earning money. She feels neglected. He doesn't know it. He's ready to retire. She's already been MIA, missing in action, because she's felt so hurt for years and wasn't able to share that. So then they show up in my office ready to get divorced. He's hopeful that she'll love him, and she's ready to leave. And I tell the party that's hopeful that they have to be willing to talk about what an ending would look like, because the person that's ready to leave isn't ready to keep doing marriage counseling. And I tell the person who wants to leave that they have to be willing to talk about the feelings, because otherwise the person that's still hopeful will sabotage any divorce proceedings, and they could fight about it for 2 years before they were in a room talking about what they're going to talk about with me or with your counselor or with someone else who knows this process. So it's a way to bridge the gap and allow you to talk about what are our finances? Where are they? How much do we owe? How much do we own? What's a budget? How much are we spending? How much does it cost us to live here? A lot of times, let's go the reverse. The woman's been unhappy that the man has been working so hard, but the man might be resentful, or the other woman, please forgive me, I don't mean to pick genders. One party is mad that they've been working the whole time and the other party's had it easy. But instead of asking the other party to start working, the resentment builds and other things get in the way. Sometimes affairs get in the way. So rebooting your marriage and starting over from your highest self is really a gift that you give yourself, because whether you decide to stay or go, you're still going to have a better relationship. And whether you have children or not, if you don't have children, then it allows you to have closure without wounds going on. And if you do have children, compassionate mediation is the biggest gift you can give your children. Because I always say the biggest gift you can give your children is to minimize conflict. And what compassionate mediation is it's a conscious way, a self-led way, a higher self-led way of resolving conflict with empathy and compassion. And that's what I'm hoping you find. So you have lots of options. Creating a new relationship is one. Sometimes you may need to talk about a separation. And there are many different ways to separate. Yes, one party could leave the house. However, there's something called nesting that a lot of people do, where one party leaves for a weekend and the other party stays, and then they switch off. Sometimes you can agree to separate in the same house. What that means is, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to start dating, but it means we're just not going to work so hard or carry our grudges. We're just going to go to our own corner of the house for a while and co-parent and talk about money, but just take the pressure off. So there's lots of different options. Separation is an option. And then you need to talk about money and parenting and all the other issues. And divorce is an option, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. Tomorrow is self-led divorce. And again, it's not doing it yourself, it's higher self. Okay? So let's see if there's any questions. Not yet, but I hope there will be. Okay. What I really want to invite you to do is to reach out for help, to reach out to me, to reach out to a counselor, to reach out to, there's wonderful therapists, selfleadership.org is where IFS therapists know about self in parts. I invite you to ask your therapist to learn about compassionate mediation. I'll be giving trainings in it, and on Friday I'm going to be talking about compassionate mediation training, because my hope is that this becomes a new paradigm for conflict resolution, that people all over the world will have access to these tools so they can implement them when there is a conflict. I mean, eventually I hope they teach it in schools and on playgrounds and in boardrooms and in politics, so that we can all bring higher self-awareness into conscious conflict resolution. So I want to tell you a story, and the story is about me, first of all. And I was married to I'm going to check the time and see how we're doing here. I hope we've got a few minutes. Okay, the story about me, and you may relate to it, is I was joyfully married to my college sweetheart. And about 20 years into the marriage with two wonderful daughters, we were looking at a divorce, sadly. And we didn't have these tools. So unfortunately, we struggled for a long time. We stayed separated for a very long time. And during that time, I thought I was being helpful to my family because we weren't really divorced yet, but the ambivalence was really difficult. We both were dating other people. It was a very confusing, very long time. And I remember there was one time we had a status call in court, and I sat in the courtroom, and my beloved soon-to-be ex-husband was sitting on the other. And I remembered thinking back that this was the man I married. This was the man that was there from when our children were born. This is the other grandfather to our three wonderful grandchildren. And this is not how it's supposed to be. There has to be a better way to do this. And I remember sitting in the courtroom, and as woo-woo as it sounds, I just remember visioning some pink light coming down, some light from God, the heavens, to say, we can sit in compassion. We can know that there's a higher purpose, that we've come to this moment, and we don't have to go the typical route to get divorced. And in that time, I sent compassion in his direction. And we did resolve it, and it had its ups and downs. So even if both parties aren't aware of this process, you can align your heart with the intention that you're going to bring consciousness, higher self, calm compassion into this process, and everybody can benefit. So even if your partner is upset, it's one of you that's upset at family gatherings, not both of you. Your children aren't necessarily in the middle. And over time, that compassion can forge a whole new bond that your family can marinate in whatever form it takes. So there was a comment. Lisa, how do you break down the wall around you so you can have a relationship? Thank you, Lisa, for that question. How do you break down the wall? First of all, put your hand on your heart and love your wall. Because any of those managers, any of those extreme parts are just running interference. They're just protecting you. And they're protecting you from feeling like you did when you were a child. But the more you get to self, and one of the ways, again, is to unburden your parts. Another way is to meditate and to breathe and to stay grateful. But when you're in self, you go to that inner child that's scared, and you speak for your fear. You speak for your pain. You speak for your anger. And then you ask for what you want and need. And then you see what the response is. And if the response is not what you want and it doesn't look like it will ever be, then from your higher self, you give yourself permission to begin to make other choices. And then you find out what those choices are. If you need to, you talk to an attorney and find out what the law is in your state. It doesn't mean you have to act on it. But if you get yourself in a position where you know that you can take care of yourself, and I know finances are often an issue, and we can talk about that, but where you know that you don't need to be in a relationship that hurts, but first do everything you can to heal it. So I hope that makes sense. But that wall is going to be there to protect you until it can believe that you are in self enough to compassionately communicate and to know that even if you're going to have a divorce, it's going to be a self-led divorce. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So let's see what I want to remind you. I want to remind you that Einstein said, I meant to start with this, but Einstein said that men marry women hoping they'll never change, and women marry men hoping to change them, and inevitably they're both disappointed. So I love that because we're humans, spiritual beings having a human experience. And in our human experience, we tend to trigger each other. And then we reach a point where we decide we might want to leave. But instead of just leaving and taking everything with us that we've already brought into the next relationship, why don't you stay and heal the one you have? And then whatever form it takes is going to be one that will bring you more hope and more possibility and more peace and love and joy to your family. So I wanted to invite you, we've got 3 more minutes. I wanted to invite you to know that some of my clients have used this process and done it alone and taken it back to their relationship, learned how to speak from their higher self, ask for what they need, and actually got it. And created a whole new relationship just by doing it on their own. I want to talk about the other clients. Oh, thank you. You've been in this yes. If you're in a painful relationship for a long time, you may want to take a look at why you're willing to stay. So for those of you who have been there a long time, you may need to do your own therapy first. This process is therapeutic in that it will invite you to take a look at what caused you to stay and what are your fears, and you can talk about them, and you can possibly talk about them with your partner. But if your partner isn't available, then find a good therapist who can help you work through this, and hopefully a therapist that knows this process, and they can merge it together, and you'll figure out why you're staying and what it needs to leave, if you need to leave, or what it needs for you to change who you are being in the relationship that invites more respect and won't tolerate disrespect and heals from within. So this is all healing from within. So what I want to invite you to do is go to my website, lindakroll.com, and invite you to get a free chapter of the book or order the book. There's also a Believe in Yourself audio. There's a Compassionate Relationship ebook on finding more passion, connection, and fun. And tomorrow we're going to talk about self-led divorce. Because if you are going through a divorce, or you know someone who's been through a divorce, or you have a divorce long in your past that's still causing you pain, using the tools of compassionate mediation help you put that in perspective. Because when you're compassionate to yourself, and then compassionate to your partner, and then that extends to your children and your family, you set the stage for how everyone in your life relates to you and your partner in this time of confusion. Because it can be a profound opportunity for spiritual growth. But you have to ask the questions. You have to get the information. So when I was talking earlier about this being a bridge to a future, I'll have to tell you the story just briefly about, I was in California at a conference and I was staying across from the Golden Gate Bridge, and all I wanted to do was see it at night. But I was at the conference for too long and I was exhausted and I didn't know how long it would take me to get there. So I called the front desk and I asked a few questions, and then I thought, well, I don't want to bother the little woman at the desk. I won't ask anymore. I'm old. I don't need to. I've done it. I've seen it. Forget it. So the next morning I woke up, and what I could see from my window was the Golden Gate Bridge. And had I just asked a few more questions, had I just taken the time to explore, is there any possibility to see it from here, I could have actually had what I needed. So even though I regretted it, I knew it would be a great story to share sometime. So I don't want you to miss finding the bridge that you're needing to get to wherever you're supposed to be. You don't have to feel lost and alone and in the middle of a desert with nowhere to go. Because what I want you to do is reach out and allow me to help you at lindakroll.com. And again, I'll hold the book up. I'll put this down so you can see the book. Compassionate Mediation for Relationships at a Crossroads. How to add passion to your marriage, and you can. Or compassion to your divorce, and you can, no matter what your partner does. And ultimately, it's going to help you heal. It's going to help your children. It's going to help your family. And ultimately, you're going to have the relationship you want, the relationship you deserve, and the relationship you desire. And I always say that love is the answer, but it starts with loving yourself. So love yourself, take care of yourself. Please let me help you in any way I can, get the help you need. And I'm sending you a heart full of love. I hope this helped. I hope it's the beginning of whatever inspired step you're going to take. And when you take it from your heart. And if you're not ready to take any steps, it's okay. Just take the step for more self-care. Just allow yourself to breathe. If you can meditate, just close your mind and breathe in. If you just take a moment, you can meditate this way. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love. And for those of you who want, breathe in faith and breathe out trust. Because if you have faith that the universe, God, higher power is working in your highest good, and that whatever situation you are right now is a possibility for immense personal and spiritual growth, then you're going to trust the process and stay present and allow the universe to help you work out the details. And I'd love to help you work out the details too. And so from my heart to yours, I'm sending you a lot of love. Please contact me, lindakroll.com, and come back tomorrow where we're going to be talking about a self-led divorce and how compassionate mediation can help that and help you heal from your divorce. And on Friday, we're going to be talking about compassionate mediation training. And that's for any heart-centered professional, a coach, clergy, therapist, mediator, lawyer, any professional that would like to help others through this process. I would love to share this process with you. So again, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.